Dr. Stephanie Kelton is with us, an economist and chair of the Department of Economics at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, editor-in-chief of the New Economic Perspectives blog, neweconomicperspectives.org. Dr. Kelton, you were, in summary, saying the U.S. government is the issuer of our currency, and therefore we don't have to worry about borrowing from the Chinese, as it were. We can, that the U.S. government can buy anything that's denominated in dollars because we the people, the government, have all the dollars. We create the dollars. And that really what constrains us is not the number of dollars we have, but the number of resources that we have. Am I restating that well?
Beautifully.
Okay. So that being the case, how do we make economic decisions in ways that don't have unintended consequences, that don't devalue the dollar, don't produce, in other words, create inflation or deflation for that matter, that don't screw up markets, don't bring about depressions? What should we be doing?
Well, okay, this is an excellent question. So, it puts the focus where it belongs, which is back on the real economy. So what should we be doing? If we've got, the way we do today, about 22 million Americans who want full-time work and can't find it, we've got all of this slack in the economy. We've got factories that aren't operating anywhere near capacity. So there's lots of room for factories to ramp up production to meet rising demand for goods and services without creating bottlenecks and inflationary pressures. And so when economists talk about inflation, most of the time what you hear is people who are concerned about, creating too much money chasing too few goods. So it's this, there's more demand than there is the capacity in the economy to produce and satisfy that demand. Now, if that happens, you're going to get inflationary pressure. Well, what I'm suggesting is that we're nowhere near having that situation in the U.S. today, that we've got all kinds of room to run, both because we have 22 million Americans who want full-time work and can't find it, and because we have lots of capacity in the economy. We have lots of resources available that can be mobilized and used to produce the things that we need. And then the discussion becomes, well, what are those things? What do we as a society need? And that's a political question. That's a question for voters working through their elected officials to say, whether it's we don't like the fact that our levees are breaking, that our bridges are falling down, that our water treatment facilities are in disrepair, that our airports and our schools and so forth. So if it's infrastructure, you can point to the National Infrastructure Report Card and you can say, the civil engineers have told us what needs to be done. And the number is astounding. It's $2.2 trillion that the civil engineers say we should be spending on our national infrastructure in order to bring it up to snuff, that it is in such bad disrepair. Now, this is not something that the private sector is going to do, right? This is a job for the public sector. So I'm just giving this by way of example. This is something where we can see lots of people who want to contribute. We can see useful work that needs to be done. And then we can ask the question, well, are the resources available to do that work? Can we put the workers together? Is there enough concrete, steel, copper, all of those things that we need in order to do this without creating inflationary pressure? How fast can we go? Where do we need to go more slowly? In every area in the economy, this should be the question. It's about whether we can put the resources to work, whether it will serve the public purpose, and whether we can do it without creating inflation, without competing with the private sector for those resources.
Now, the libertarians would suggest that if the roads are in sufficiently bad disrepair, if the bridges are seriously falling apart, that the Koch brothers are going to come along and see this as an opportunity for investment, and they'll build private roads with toll bridges on either end, and you'll have a private sector solution to all this stuff.
Well, in fact, the Koch brothers would like to come in and take over a fair bit of the national infrastructure, and the way that they can actually accomplish that is by allowing the state budgets to become so strained that you actually create a fiscal crisis at the state and local level, and you start getting states to sell off resources like power plants and toll roads and so forth.
It's happening right now.
It's happening right now. It's happening right now.
Is that intrinsically or necessarily a bad thing?
Well, I don't know that in every case it is. There are certainly resources that are better are better for national security reasons and so forth. I think if they're in the public domain, but But the main point is, I guess, that it doesn't have to happen. That state and local governments, well, they face the same kinds of constraints that you and I do, or that a private business does, because they don't issue the currency. And so when your income falls, my income were to fall in half overnight, and all of a sudden I'm left with half the disposable income, I'm going to be forced to tighten my belt and spend a whole lot less. And the same goes for a private business when its sales drop off, or from a state government or a local government when their tax receipts fall off, for example, because the economy goes into the tank. And this is what happened after the financial crisis and the ensuing economic meltdown in the states. But the federal government, because it's different, because it can spend, and in fact must spend counter-cyclically, that the federal government has the capacity to do what none of the rest of us can do, which is to spend even as its income, so-called, is going down. So federal governments could step in, and they should step in, and they should have done this long ago, and provided the backstop for these still struggling state and local governments so that they weren't forced to get into the situation where they're selling off assets to people like the Koch brothers.
Mm-hmm. So, and we have just a little less than a minute before the break here. How do we do that without creating inflation? How do you know when inflation is a danger?
Well, inflation can arise for lots of different reasons. It doesn't just come, and it doesn't even mainly just come from the demand side of the economy, from people with too much money trying to buy too many goods and services that are produced in the economy. In fact, what we have chronically is a situation where there isn't enough total demand in the economy to buy all the goods and services that our businesses want to produce. So we look most of the time to the supply side of the economy. We can find oil price shocks and other things driving inflation. And there are ways to figure out when that's coming, and maybe some different things you can do in terms of policy to try to fight that inflation before it becomes a problem.
We have to take a 6-minute break for the news. You're with us for another 15 minutes?
Sure.
Great. Dr. Stephanie Kelton is here. We'll be right back. New Economic Perspectives.